Whiplash.
Going from 7 knots to 70 miles an hour. Hey.
Are we really doing 70 miles per hour?
Yes, we're doing 70 miles an hour.
I'm staying on the path that I've chosen, straight up. Come my way and I'll see you at the top. 'Cause something's gonna happen in this story, and I can feel it coming like the rising of the sun. The stream.
So we have now been pretty much full-time in the van for 1 month since we did our Hurricane Dorian evacuation off the boat and then decided
Not
to
to
just
move back.
Exactly, just leave in storage for hurricane season. And before that, we had done about 2.5 weeks when we were van-based, but we're also split that up, staying with my mom while we were helping
Right.
with her surgery stuff.
So in that time, we've logged probably total over 1,000 miles of van mileage in that over a month. And
Well, more than that, much more than that, because we had the evacuation and then you had
The
this
trip to Florida.
trip. So since we'd left Savannah with the boat in storage and starting to do our cross-country trip, we are at, 770 miles.
Yes.
Plus the evacuation, plus Mom. I think we're up to 1,500 miles in the van.
yeah, it's getting up there. And it's great. We're loving the van. But the contrast between life on a boat and long stays, big comfortable house, 7 knot traveling, and life in a van, short stays, 70 miles an hour, has been giving us a lot of the contrast has been on our mind. It's really, really enlightening to see the difference, and it's flashing us back to some of the lessons we learned and maybe perhaps forgot in our early days of RVing too.
Yeah, so our first years on the road back in 2006, 2007, when we were in a small travel trailer and a Jeep pulling it, we did 13,000 miles in 7 months across country, and we hardly stayed anywhere more than 2 or 3 nights at a time. It was fun, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun, but it exhausted us and caused us to change our pace up.
Yeah, because you're always basically your life revolves around setting up, taking down, setting up, taking down.
Planning. Where are you stopping today?
Yes. And you never really plan to catch your breath, and you get someplace and you got to do what you're going to do there and see you're going to see and
Plus we're working full time.
Plus we're working full time, and back then we'd come up with like maybe we should have a 2-night rule of like no, anytime we stop for at least 2 nights.
Unless it's like a Walmart sort of overnight rest area sort
They
of
frown
thing.
on that.
Yeah.
And in this van trip, we've kind of forgotten that. We've been thinking, oh, we're so quick and nimble in the van, and it's easy. There's so little setup and there's so little tear down. We can do just an overnight stop and hop up and go again. And, well, no, guess what? It still is exhausting.
And maybe it's because we're still exhausted from the hurricane evacuation and all the transition of getting the boat ready for long-term storage, and we just didn't give ourselves enough time to kind of reset from that, and I think that is part of it.
Yes.
But we also were so backlogged on work from all the trips and the evacuation and going down to help my mom. So we've got a backlog of work. We haven't been able to really produce a video for fun here on the Technomadia channel in like 2 months. I mean, that's crazy. We just haven't had time for that, and we planned some fun stops. Each individual stop that we've had across country has been fun and awesome on their own, except for that one.
Yeah, all except one.
But yeah, we stopped and reconnected with friends. We did do a 4-night stop, and then we had our next stop planned to be a 1 night. We extended that to 2 nights because we got there and it wasn't enough time to be with and to reconnect with friends.
And also just that like instant turnaround of like you navigate into a parking spot through traffic and get in somebody's backyard and you're like, gonna leave in the morning? Wait.
I don't want to do that. So we had a couple 1-night stops planned in a row, and quickly, just it's like we can't sustain that. So we did have to kind of rejigger our plans. That's why plans are in Jello, right?
Yes.
And just like we can't do all these 1-night stops. We need to do some longer driving days and to do some longer stops along this trip.
And you really love the longer driving days, don't you, Cherie?
I hate the driving days, period. That's one thing I'm finding is I am far more sensitive to the motion of driving. I've always been a really bad passenger, and I don't like to drive, but I can. And moving at speeds above 20 knots, 20 miles per hour it's tough. It's tough for me in particular.
Yeah, so we're going to experiment with like giving Cherie a mega dose of Benadryl and strapping her into the back.
I'd have to.
But but yeah, it is the whole, because it is, when you're driving the boat, it is usually very relaxing when you're driving or passenger of the boat, because things happen at a slow pace. You get to look around and enjoy the scenery and everything else. When you're driving, particularly in heavy freeway traffic or stop and go cities or trying to navigate an unfamiliar place, you are, in constant alert mode, and you are making 60 decisions a second of just adjusting your steering, adjusting your speed, planning your navigation. It is so much more mentally demanding. I do enjoy driving usually, but it is very draining. At the end of a day boating, it's like, I feel relaxed. At the end of a day driving, it's like, okay, that was fun, but tired.
That's not to say boating is all joy when you're driving. I mean, there are moments
of terror.
Like, you get waked really bad, or you've got to navigate through a really shallow channel.
Or a challenging docking situation.
But mostly when we are in motion in the boat, you get dolphins swimming next to you. You don't see anybody for sometimes hours.
We probably had tractor trailers drive past us carrying mahi-mahi. That's basically a dolphin going by, right?
I think that's
not
different.
the same. Okay,
no, that's different. Those were cows too.
Oh yeah, we saw cows. We saw little snouts sticking out going past us on the freeway.
But it is very different. And boating, I love piloting the boat. I try to still not let him do it as often. We have to fight over it. Whereas driving is like, okay, I will take a shift if you really need a break, but please don't make me do that. I always have hated driving, and I've hated being in motion, and I got over it. I mean, when I first told my friends and family I was hitting the road with this guy in a trailer, they say, but you hate riding in a car. I was always been work at home. And so I didn't have to commute. I didn't have to drive if I didn't want to. Have things within walking distance of where I want to be.
So what are some of the other contrasts of life in a van, small van, versus in big boat then?
And also I think in contrast to our bus, which is pretty self-contained, the van is not self-contained right now. The generator doesn't work because the prior owner did not maintain it properly, so we need to have it severely serviced. It's only got 100 watts of solar. The batteries are kind of old. And it's been flirking hot out.
Yes.
So it's been not something that we can do just comfortable off-grid stays. And not that there's lots of opportunities out east anyway.
Mm-hmm. And so it means we've been going pole to pole, whether it's plugging into a friend's backyard power outlet or getting to campgrounds. But in another way that a small van is not self-contained is that the tanks are really small, which means we're optimizing using bathrooms for friends or campground restrooms for showers and using the bathroom as much as possible, which means that if you want to go use the bathroom or go take a shower, you got to get dressed, you got to grab all your stuff, you got to walk up the street, you got to walk back down the street, and and
Ross, I'm finding I got so used to not doing this in the bus when we had to reserve a campsite. We didn't care if we were close to the bathhouse. In fact, we liked being as far away from it as possible. And I was like, okay, how far away from the bathhouse can we get and still have a great site with a great view? And it is a little bit limiting, but then again, the size of the van gives us more options too. Mm-hmm. Boating, oh my gosh, we are so spoiled having 2 baths, having a bathtub, having huge water tanks, not even worrying about gray water, except for, you want to keep it as clean as possible because it's going overboard, and huge black tanks. But dumping the van and dumping a bus, an RV in general, dump stations are so much easier in an RV than pump outs on a boat.
Yes. You do have to, with the bus, we were very spoiled because we can go basically month plus without even having to think about dumping because the tanks were so huge. Whereas the van is basically every time we come to a campground, as we leave, we dump just to stay ahead of it because it does not have a ton of capacity.
Yes, so it's been an adjustment, a little bit of whiplash, but I am surprised. When we first got the van on our first trial run, we said, I don't think we're going to be able to do extended stays in the van, and we think our small living days were in our past. Actually, a month later in the van itself,
super comfy,
very comfortable, and I think I can do extended stays in it. We just need to slow down the pace here.
Even on the days when we're like, you think the van is small and you're going to feel claustrophobic, confined inside and stuff, but the way the layout is on this G, it's both for sleeping and working. There's just enough space that you don't go stir crazy inside. And then when it is a beautiful day like today, it's finally cooled off, you can spread out onto the picnic tables and really enjoy the outdoors as well. And so I love that flexibility.
But also finding, because this is our only mode of transport, and campgrounds tend to be pretty far away from things, we and you have to do a little bit of transition. It is not as much as other forms of travel, but there is a transition between motion mode and being still mode. Is we don't tend to just go out exploring in the van once we're at our campsite.
Yeah, not like when we had the Mini Cooper where we might say, hey, let's go for a sightseeing drive. Not as likely to do that just for an afternoon.
Or just go to the store to get milk. So we are finding that we are provisioning while en route. So we stop at a grocery store. Parking in a normal size spot is awesome.
Nice. Yes.
So we are provisioning for whatever we're anticipating we're going to be at a campground or a place we're going to be. And then we're just staying where we are. So if the campground doesn't have good walking, it gets kind of nerve-wracking. It's kind of like being at anchor and on the boat.
We are itching for bikes. We are definitely itching for some
Yeah.
bikes. That'll be one of our near-term purchases, is get something that works nicely on the back of the van.
Yep, so that we do have a little more range in what we can go and explore. So yeah, that's a transition. In the bus Mini Cooper setup, we would set up the bus and then we would have local transport. Not that we did that often because we are such extreme homebodies, but it was nice to have that option. And we know theoretically it's not a big deal for us to do that with the van, but we're slugs when once we get into a campsite. It takes a lot of inertia to get us to leave.
Yes. So the other day you were really itching to be back on the boat, but we're loving van life, and so we're like, there's just so much contrast and differences between them. We love a lot about both. So people always meeting people, they're like, well, what is your favorite? Do you like the van? Do you like the bus? Do you like the boat? And at the moment, it's still all of the above. They all have things to love about them.
But I am starting to envision that I could really enjoy a life of boat and van. The more I'm in the van, the more I'm loving it, and the more I'm wanting one with the lithium setup and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to be able to leave the air conditioner running in a
Yes.
parking lot without worrying about the cat frying.
Yes.
So, yes.
That has been actually a challenge in doing stop provisions. Is we are trying to find shady spots. It does have good airflow, but in these hot days, and we need to run into the store, where it's a quick trip, or one of us stays with the van running with the cat while the other one does the errand.
Yes, so we are very cat driven.
Yes, we are. I mean, as it should be. I mean,
Yes.
that's the whole purpose in life, is to serve a cat, right? That's what she told me this morning. She whispers that in my ear every morning.
Yes, she does.
So that's the 1 month report on full-time van life for us. The whiplash from going from life at 7 knots
to 70 miles an hour.
Please slow down.
They honk at you when you go 7 knots on the freeway. You enjoy the view much better that way.
But yes, it's all good. Mostly, I am super stressed on driving days. We need more still days.
More still days.
Lesson
That's our
learned.
plan between here and Texas. More still days.
All right. Maybe it'll change in a month. Who knows?
Okay. Take care.